Hey, welcome back to my channel. Well, this is part 2 of a series of that Hamilton 974 pocket watch that I had taken apart in the first video. In this video, I'm going to be pre-cleaning and doing the final cleaning in it. Right now, I'm going to be working on the dial, and I'm just using some warm soapy water to clean off some of the grunge that was on that dial. It doesn't look too bad, doesn't have any hairline cracks in it or anything. The dial's in really good shape, so it's just going to need a little basic cleaning. And I just use these Q-tips dipped in that warm water and clean it all off and get as much of the dirt off as I can. And I think it's going to that's going to look good. Well, I'm going to dry it off with some of this watch paper. It's lint free and doesn't leave any particles on it. These dials are actually made of copper and have a enamel coating over them, so you don't really have to worry about them rusting. Well, now I'm going to start with a pre-cleaning of my watch. Those Q-tips I use are kind of special Q-tips. They're not your regular type Q-tips. They're called nail teas. And what I do is I take my parts and I soak them in that IPA alcohol container, give them like a little bath. And I use these special Q-tips. They don't shed a bunch of fiber on them like your normal Q-tips. And that's IPA alcohol is 99.9% alcohol. It's different from the stuff that you would get at the grocery store or your drugstore. That other stuff has water in it. I think it's only 70%. What I do after soaking my parts in alcohol, it loosens up the dirt and stuff and oil. Then I'll take that Q-tip and dip it in that alcohol and use it as a swab as I'm cleaning off the parts. It does a really good job of dissipating all that oil and grease. And that IPA alcohol evaporates real fast. Also, stick around to the end of this video. I'm going to show you a new tool that I have that I've started using. It really has helped me a lot. Now, the purpose of pre-cleaning is to one is to inspect all your parts so you can look at the jewels or any parts that might be damaged. And then another benefit of the pre-cleaning is you're just doing almost like a detail. You're getting into all the little nooks and crannies that hold dirt and grease, and it's just really helpful to remove all that before you do your final cleaning. It's some people don't bother with it, but I'm really into that. I want to get as much cleaning off as I can, and the most dirt and oil and grease you get off, the longer your cleaning solution will last for your cleaning machine, because it doesn't have so much dirt and grease and oil in it left over from the cleaning process. Now, when you're through with cleaning with the Q-tip with the IPA alcohol, I take a piece of pegwood and clean out all the jewel holes and any of the pivot holes or screw holes, and just what I do is just twirl it around and it cleans it out. Now, the piece of pegwood I sharpen with a razor blade or my pocket knife, and when you sharpen it that way, you get the little ridges on the point of it, instead of if you use like a pencil sharpener that made it smooth. Those little ridges are actually helping clean out that dirt and oil and build up crud. Now, this process might seem kind of tedious to you, but it's really for a good benefit. I mean, you'll be surprised how better your cleaning does with all this extra pre-cleaning. It just makes everything a lot better. So what's y'all's thoughts about this pre-cleaning? If you have any comments, just leave them down in that comment section. Next thing we're going to work on is our mainspring barrel. I like to just take it on the anvil like that and push down, and makes it as you push down it pops open, rather than trying to pry it open with a screwdriver and taking a chance of scratching or bending the lid. Now I'm just going to remove the arbor with my tweezers and then take that old mainspring out. I purchased a new mainspring. I try to replace all the mainsprings when I service my watches, because, you know, I don't know how long they've been in there. They could have been in there 50 years for all I know, and most of them are set when you take them out. You can tell they're just all coiled up and just don't seem to have any life back in them. So mainsprings aren't all that expensive, so I want to go ahead and replace that. Now clean all the old grease and stuff out of that barrel, get it looking nice and clean. Well, next thing I'm going to do is focus on my gears. I'll take a piece of that Rodico and roll the gears around on it to get some of the grease and dirt out of those teeth, and then I'll take the Q-tip soaked in some of that IPA and clean the pinions off too, get any dirt or grease in them out. I use this for my hairspring, this hairspring cleaner, because I don't want to take a chance of dissolving the shellac that's used to hold in the roller jewel, and also on the pallet jewels that are glued in with shellac. Some of those cleaners can dissolve that shellac. I just put some of that solution in this little jar here and soak them in it for about 10 minutes and don't have to worry about it. And to dry my hairspring off, I use an old method that I heard that read somewhere, that I use boxwood sawdust. And you warm that boxwood sawdust up. I keep it on top of a fluorescent light fixture above my work area, and it stays warm all the time. And I just put my hairspring in there, leave it in there for about 10 minutes, and it absorbs any of that solution that was on the hairspring, and just cover it up, let it set. Then I take it out and tap it off a little bit, and most of that stuff will come right off, that sawdust. I just take my little puffer and puff around it, blow any excess off. Well, now that I got my pre-cleaning done, I'm going to start with my final cleaning. This is the solution I use for my washing, and this is the solution that I use for my rinsing solution. They're commercial grade, but they're really good, and I've never had any problems with them. All right, now we're going to start our final cleaning process. I use 2 jars. I put my small parts in one jar for washing, and then I put my larger parts in the other jar for washing. Okay, now I'm going to start with washing my parts. I'm going to start with the small parts first and put them in this jar. I take my wheels, and I like to put them on this brass wire to keep them all together so they don't get knocked around and stuff. Just makes it seem more easier to handle when they're all together on that piece of wire. Now I'm going to put all my little small parts in these little wire baskets. That keeps everything together, keeps it from getting lost or separated. I like those little baskets, they're real handy. Okay, once you got it filled up, you just screw the lid on there, and you don't have to worry about parts coming out, dropping them, or losing any small parts. Now I put any jewels that I'm cleaning in those small baskets by themselves, so they won't get damaged. Now if you haven't subscribed to my channel, go ahead and subscribe. I try to put out a new video once a week about pocket watches if you like pocket watches, and also hit that like button. Now I got all my small parts in the little basket containers, and ready to put them in the wash solution. Next, I'm going to put the large parts in their own container. I put both jars in the little ultrasonic cleaner and I run it for about 5 minutes. And you only need to run your washing through one cycle. If you need to do more than one cycle, something's not right. Either you're not pre-cleaning good enough or your washing solution's not sufficient. So what's your favorite washing solution? Some people use lighter fluid. Some people even use soapy water. So what's your preference? You can leave it in the comments. I'd like to hear. Now these 3 jars have the rinsing solution in them. We got them numbered 1, 2, and 3. And there's a purpose for that numbering system, because each part is going to get a separate bath in the rinse solution. We start with number 1, and then we go to number 2, and then number 3. Now I'll explain why we have the numbers on the jars when we're going through the rinse cycles. So now we're through with our wash cycle. We're going to start on our rinsing cycle, and I'm going to take the parts out of the wash jar and put them in the number 1 rinse jar. Now the number 1 rinse is going to end up being really dirty because it's getting all the parts straight out of the washing solution. It's still got some contaminants on it and some of the washing solution. So I put them on this pad. This paper is optical grade paper. It doesn't have any lint on it, and it's real good for absorbing this fluid and doesn't leave any contaminants that could get in my rinse solution. Okay, now let's put our parts in the rinsing solution. Now I'm going to put it in our ultrasonic machine and run it for about 2 minutes. Now that cycle's done. We're taking them out of the number 1 jar and we're going to put them in the number 2 jar of the rinse solution. And this is going to even get them cleaner and get more of that anything that was left over off. And that's what you want. You want your parts to be super clean. Okay, now we're going to run this one for 2 minutes, just like we did the first one, this number 2 jar. Well, now we're done with our second cycle with our number 2 jar. Now we're going to move on to our number 3 jar, and this is going to be our final rinse. Now I feel 3 rinses are sufficient. Some people even do 4 rinses, but I think 3 with a pre-cleaning like I did and all. I think 3 rinses are going to be enough for this. And we're going to run it for 2 more minutes, and that should be enough. Well, now we're through rinsing our small parts. Now we'll start rinsing our large parts off, and we'll go through the 3-step process again. Now we're going to run it through 2 minutes just like we did the small parts. And we're going to do it 3 times just like we did the small parts. Now that we're done with all our parts rinsing, here's something else we're going to do at the very end. And that's to take that IPA and give our parts a bath in that. We'll just take the parts and dip them into that IPA. And what that IPA does is removes any other contaminants that could possibly be on our watch parts, and it helps with dissipating any moisture that's on there. It just cleans it all off really good. It's just a final step that I go through. So the last step we're going to do is we have to dry our parts. And now you just can't leave your parts out to air dry because condensation is on them, and that can cause rust. So what you need is some moving air and a heat source to help dry that, to help evaporate any moisture that's on any of your watch parts. Well, here's the tool I promised at the beginning of the video. If you stuck around to the end, here's a food dehydrator, and that's what I use to dry my parts with. It has a continual dry, warm air flowing through it, and it works perfect. I really like it. I used to use like a little hair dryer or something, but always worried about blowing away parts or something. So I just put them in this dehydrator, set it on low temperature. I use about 110. You need one that has an adjustable temperature on it, but they're fairly inexpensive. But they do a perfect job of drying your parts out. You don't have to worry about condensation or not getting them dry enough, because it does a super great job. So I highly recommend it. I put all my small parts in those little baskets, my jewels too in those little baskets. The only thing I don't dry in there is of course my hairspring and my palette, because you take a chance of that heat melting that shellac that holds those jewels in. Well, if you'd like to learn more about pocket watches, watch this video.